Well, Jussie Smollett's attacker says the entire crime was an act and Smollett was the director. And now a court is trying to decide if this was a racially motivated crime or a desperate plea for attention. And Smollett's not the only case screaming for attention this week. Lori Daybell's attorney took center stage with the courtroom ethics complaint out of Idaho. And the case of Summer Wells had its own reprise as investigators took to the field in a massive search for the 5-year-old missing child. As we start, I hope you'll take just a moment and hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell so you get our videos. Now let's get going on this. Jussie Smollett's attacker testified this week that he and his brother were asked by Smollett to assault him as part of a hoax to bring attention to the actor. The hoax had the potential to further tear apart our country, which in my opinion is already struggling with poor race relationships and renewed claims of unfair treatment of people of color. If Smollett's attacker is telling the truth, this was a dumb and dangerous plan. According to this week's testimony, Smollett asked the brothers to stage a fake attack on him in view of a city surveillance camera. The men followed through with the plan and they grabbed Smollett at the appointed place and time, throwing him down on the ground. They punched the actor, who incidentally, they testified, taught them to throw a fake punch. They even went so far as to put a noose around his neck while uttering racial slurs, including shouting things similar to President Donald Trump's slogan, "Make America Great." To top it off, the plan included throwing gasoline on the actor, but apparently cooler heads prevailed and the attackers opted to throw bleach on Smollett instead. Smollett drove the would-be attackers around this Chicago neighborhood where he lived, showing them where he wanted the attack to occur. The brothers say Smollett gave him $100 bill to buy supplies for the attack, including the ski masks, a rope, a red hat that was meant to again indicate that the attackers were supporters of former President Donald J. Trump. Smollett and his defense team obviously countered the testimony by saying the brothers made the entire thing up. Frankly, I find this defense odd since the brothers attribute any success they've had to the actor who brought him into the filming fold. They were aspiring actors themselves, and Smollett was making all of this possible for him. Why on earth would they hurt the very person who was helping them find success? Instead, they said that they felt indebted to Smollett, and that's why they followed his plan. Well, with all the theatrics involved, here's the thing that I find so dang troubling. Why is the courtroom filled with media? And frankly, why am I talking about this on Profiling Evil? Why in the world is everyone so consumed with this case? Is it because it is allegedly racist? I just don't get it. And yet here I am talking about it. The real crime is that the city of Chicago spent more than $100,000 investigating this hoax while real victims, people with real violent crimes that they were victimized by, were put on hold. A cadre of professional detectives chased shallow leads in what's going to prove to be a really bad publicity stunt. A stunt that in the end probably is only going to net some community service time and a judicial slap on the wrist. I mean, holy cow, what are we doing here? Let's move to a different story. But first, before I do so, I hope you're figuring out your gift giving ideas for the holiday season this year. Profiling Evil is going to be giving away all kinds of things during the 12 days of Christmas, but you need to be a subscriber to win. So take a minute, hit that like and subscribe button. And since we're talking about gift giving, don't forget to order a signed hardbound set of my 2 latest books, Deceived, an investigative memoir of the Zion Society cult, and She Knew No Fear. We're letting them go for $20 off the regular price, and they're available right now at profilingevil.com. Deceived chronicles my investigation and takedown of a cult where we rescued 32 kids from abuse. The proceeds from this book are being donated to build a new children's justice center and to support criminal justice students in their education. She Knew No Fear explores the life of Jane McKechnie Walton, who immigrated to the United States in the 1850s, conquered the West, and started a family, only to be murdered at a town celebration in 1891. You got to read this one to learn how I solved this 130-year-old whodunit. Now let's get back to the recap. What would a weekly crime report be without mentioning the ever-evolving Daybell murder case? This week, Lori Vallow Daybell's defense attorney, Mark Means, is in the ethics gun sights of Madison and Fremont County prosecutors who have asked a judge to sanction the attorney for coloring way outside of the judicial lines. In fact, they argue that it was flat out inappropriate and unethical for Means to serve as Daybell's attorney because of conflicts of interest and zealous advocacy, which they believe has crossed the line. The comments that I found to be most profound surrounding Means' representation of Daybell and this entire filing is that Means did not include his co-counsel, the much more experienced attorney Jim Archibald, on the filings. He wasn't signing any of that. Prosecutor Rob Wood and Lindsay Blake hit the nail on the head, in my opinion, when they wrote that Mr. Means has relied on spurious facts, hearsay, and possible violations of his own client's rights to make the allegations, close quote. They went on to say, quote, the public manner in which Mr. Means requests this outline material is concerning, as it appears he intends to publicize statements he believes were made by his client. At this time, the defendant, Lori Vallow Daybell, is deemed by the court incompetent and cannot make informed consent to her private statements being made in public, close quote. I mean, there it is. And I want to state this again. At this time, the defendant, Lori Vallow Daybell, is deemed by the court incompetent and cannot make an informed consent to her private statements being made public, close quote. The defense can't have it both ways, and the prosecution nailed this argument. All things Lori Vallow Daybell are on hold right now, while the state of Idaho works on restoring her mental health. Now would be actually a great time to make changes in the defense counsel if that's what ends up happening. But here's a question for you. What do you think Chad Daybell's doing sitting in jail? I mean, he's got to be scratching his head thinking, what happened? Here's a guy that was chasing a fantasy, and now the world's tumbling down around him. Well, the Daybells are charged with multiple crimes, including conspiracy to commit murder and first-degree murder. The charges are in relation to the deaths of a 7-year-old Joshua J.J. Vallow, 16-year-old Tylee Ryan, 2 of Lori's children, and then Chad's first wife, Tammy Daybell. And just today, the court made it known that that trial is now scheduled for January of 2023. That is a year plus away. Hey, and what's happening in the Summer Wells case? There was a flurry of force this week as public safety officers from all around the region searched a 1-mile area around the Wells home. Sheriff Ronnie Lawson indicated that it was a planned event, taking advantage of fall conditions to further the search for summer. Conspiracy theories think otherwise, and I talked about that today while I was out cutting wood. Let's listen in.
Hey everybody, Mike from Profiling Evil. I've been doing a lot of thinking today. I'm up in the mountains cutting firewood for winter, and I was thinking about the Summer Wells case, and there's a lot of conspiracy theorists out there who are trying to make this search that's gone on this week a whole lot more than I believe it really is. I mean, it just makes good sense this time of year to get out in the woods and look around for things that have been dropped or lost. I've done it before with things like sunglasses that I dropped during an excursion in the summertime. And you know what? Sometimes I find these things because the countryside is clearer. You can see by this video that I took as I was driving around today getting ready to cut firewood that the countryside is wide open when it's autumn. All the leaves have fallen off the trees, the brush is dried up, the grass is shortened and pushed down sometimes from an early snow, and it just makes good sense. Now, when it comes to the searchers hitting the waterways, that's a little different story. And from our friends at Adventures with Purpose, I've learned quite a bit over the last couple of years looking at how they examine cases. In the summertime, when temperatures are hot and sadly as bodies start to decompose, they'll often float to the surface unless there's something anchoring them down, like a weight tied to something, or that they're snagged up in underbrush or something like that. So it makes really good sense now that the water levels are lower than they would be at any time during the year that law enforcement's out checking those as well. I hope this helps as we look at these cases, and like you, we all continue to pray that there'll be a happy outcome to the Summer Wells case. As time goes on, it becomes less likely. Again, there are really three options in my opinion. One is that she was murdered. Two, that she was abducted. Or three, something I've talked about from the very beginning, that's the possibility that this little tyke, as courageous and energetic and outgoing as she was, that she took off on her own, that she went for a little hike and something happened, an accident occurred. Think about all of the waterways that are in this area, all of the sloughs and the ponds, not to mention how rough the terrain is, and how easy it would be to fall into one of those nooks and crannies and be passed over.
Yeah, from the get-go, I've suggested that while abduction and murder could have happened, we can't rule out the possibility that Summer could have wandered off on her own. I mean, think back to those videos that were online of how independent this little girl is. She's seen swimming by herself, playing aggressively in the yard. And we have that testimony from Dawn and Candace that this little girl could hold her own with her brothers. And think about the video of her running around by herself in the church meeting. It's going to be really interesting to see how the true crime community resolves when this mystery is solved, if it ever is. And with the ongoing Ghislaine Maxwell trials on my mind, I hope you're taking time to watch my Kirby Summers interview on Profiling Evil podcasts. You can catch those at your favorite podcast platform. And make sure you're checking us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And don't forget to sign up for the B.O.L.O, our free newsletter. And folks, again, hit the like and the subscribe button if you want to be in on the gift giving that's coming up on the 12 days of Christmas. Ring the bell so that you get all our notifications. And have a great weekend. And we're going to see you soon.